Welcome to another recorded live event supporting our most recent Living Resilience Introductory Course, Collateral Beauty. This course, designed to challenge and resource both newcomers and the very experienced in the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant communities. Each recording in this series is from either the Saturday or Tuesday online Zoom gatherings intended to deepen an embodied and shared experience of this inner work of collapse in the course called Collateral Beauty.
All right. Hello there, everybody. This is Dean Walker, and this is the Collateral Beauty course. And this is week 4 of 6 of this Collateral Beauty extravaganza. And this is all a part of the offerings of a little organization on the interwebs called Living Resilience. So welcome. We call these Saturday and Tuesday gatherings during this 6-week period in April and May of 2024. We call them group practice sessions. And I really appreciated being able to do these, even when there are not, as evidently as so this time, there are not people live on the call with me now. So for those of you who are watching on the recording, what I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to do in these recordings is to be able to articulate in real time how I'm really activating these practices and these distinctions and the content of the course in my own life. And then pass on some suggestions and some feedback for that reflect some of my outside conversations with folks who are primarily doing this course via the recordings. And this world is really moving along as usual. It is moving at breakneck speed and beyond. And we have many world events, global events that fit well into how to really embody many of the practices we're talking about, how to embody some of the distinctions that we're talking about in terms of how to become more and more present, how to expand our capacity to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors. That is what this work is about. And that is what these group practice sessions are intended to be about, is an opportunity for us to take it from watching a video or reading an article, or hopefully you're doing some journaling. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about kind of a special focus on journaling and providing prompts for yourself for your journaling, and also for any in-depth conversations you're lucky enough to have with, I really hope for all of us that we have a cadre of people that we can deep dive into the subject matter of each of the 6 weeks of this course. There are, of course, ways that you can seek out camaraderie here in Living Resilience by going to not only are you a member here of the content material for the course in the Collateral Beauty course part of the thing, but also right next to that menu of course offerings is a groups tab or a groups menu. And one of those groups that you can sign up for nothing and just join in and start up conversation threads, if you wish, in the Collateral Beauty support group uh, area here in the Living Resilience community space. So if you have any questions about any of that and it's just difficult to navigate, or you're having any sort of conundrum that you'd like to have some help talking about, or ways of connecting you up with other people perhaps, but please don't hesitate to contact me directly, either in the Collateral Beauty space. You can direct message me in that anywhere in the uh, Living Resilience online community space. And also there's my email address, which I'll put up on the screen that you're looking at right now. So as you're able to see, I'm not in my usual location, and I'm visiting a friend and out of town for a day. And I'm noticing there's a lot going on energetically in the world. There's, of course, a lot going on. It's the understatement of the year, of the century, I guess, to say that there's a lot going on and there's an acceleration and intensification of what's going on. In the local front, meaning in the USA, well, we are coming on just very few months away from a national election for president. And I don't know of anybody who just thinks, oh, it's going to be just like it always is and kind of a natural, normal progression through whatever. I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be a lot of discord, whether it goes to some sort of violence and some sort of mass aggression of any kind, or immense discord. I don't know. And frankly, I am not much encouraged if it stays at the quieter level, and if it just kind of simmers in the background, continues to, because my view of the situation that we're in is that we are uh, essentially disconnected from one another at a critical level. Um, we're disconnected from our own sense of center in our world. And, if you've been following this course material, that that's really at the core of this work, is how to expand our capacity to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors. And the primary way we do that is to reclaim and expand our felt sense and experience of center, both individually and collectively. And collectively means whatever grouping matters to you. It could be your own intimate relationships, your own family, your own neighborhood, your own community, where your workplace, perhaps, your friends that you are close enough to be able to grapple with these kind of issues together, and all the way out to national and global. So today I want to just calm it down a little bit. I know I've gotten a bit of feedback, which is a bit surprising, but I shouldn't be too surprised at this point. We've been putting out this kind of material for about going on 10 years now. And this introductory course has gone through a lot of changes. I did what so many new content providers in the collapse aware and collapse acceptant space. There, there are a number of new providers out there, and it's great. We need every flavor that you can imagine. But I noticed that they're making many of the same mistakes that I made at the beginning, which is to offer, offer far, far, far too much material, far too much content, and not enough experiential practices to be able to start to embody this. We are constantly saturated from birth these days, and a greater volume now on a daily basis than ever before of masses of content. And how it's changed in the past couple of years is um, it's not just the mischievous sale and infinite sales pitch, infinite manipulation of our consciousness, and not just a fire hose of content of that variety from corporations, from government, from people who want to sell us stuff and influence us one way or another, and so on. But now we have a similar fire hose coming at us at the same time of even the most glorious content. There are a number of just world-class content providers that I'm aware of that I track, and I want to follow their work. And I'm already far over my limit, my capacity to take on and stay present to their beautiful content, their beautiful presentation. So, I take it in doses, and I'm on my own sort of media diet, and I hope you are the same. There's a whole branch of practices that are beyond the usual contemplative practice, have a meditation practice and so on. That's the most common type of practice that is talked about in these collapse-aware conversations and so on. In around here, we have quite a few different kinds of practices that are rarely talked about elsewhere, sometimes, but not much. It starts with activating practices. So if we've got the contemplative and calming practices on the one side, there are many folks, myself included, who value greatly by engaging with practices that engage and activate parts of ourselves, activate parts of our system through breath, through motion, through dance, through ecstatic dance, through breath work, through stimulating conversation. It's different for different systems, different people's bodies, what you're needing to activate your system. The third kind of practice that I'm wanting to mention now is desaturation practice that I'm really quite adamant in my experience and my working with many, many people in this field that there is really no way for us to be able to stand up and then expand our capacity to be present if we don't have a center. And there are a number of ways that we are either robbed of our center or we forfeit our center. Having that fire hose of content 24/7 is one way to keep us off center, keep ourselves off center, and quite maliciously from the sources of that content, just keeping it coming and relentlessly. So we've got those 3 and more types of practice that you will discover that if you stay with this body of work, if you stick around after the 6 weeks of this course, which is just a toe in the water, just a bare introduction, you will have many opportunities to pursue the tracks that you would like to do. That might include a deep dive into discerning between these different types of practices and assembling your own curated menu of practices that you can take on for the coming weeks or months or years. And that, of course, is something that you can then revamp and relook, retool every few weeks to make sure that you are really taking care of yourself, that you are activating that which would like to be activated in your system, calming that which deeply needs some calming, which is very common in our world right now. And then, of course, this desaturation work that I'm talking about. So in the name of that, last week we did a very, very brief practice, and this week I'm not going to be offering you that, because I'm really going to suggest that you revisit Stacey Haynes' centering practices from last week. I think it's brilliant. You can easily just cue it up and just go do as much of it or as little of it as you like. It has that centering, that full body centering that she is renowned for. And then if you stick with it, if you have the time to be able to go beyond that and include the motion-oriented centering, I would recommend it highly. It just doesn't get any more basic and clear about the physical body, and it actually affects the energy body and the mental body and the feeling body to do those centering practices. Perhaps you have your own. I don't want to get in the way of that. If you find that that is valuable for you in terms of calming, activating, or desaturating, more power to you. Please continue. The other practice that I'll just mention again is the journaling, and really allowing yourself to take it on. I'll be including access to a Google Doc that will have these various prompts that I will be mentioning here, and a few more. And I really hope that you will start taking on the practice of creating your own prompts for journaling and conversation. The last piece I'll mention, which I know I can get a little annoying with the idea of more and more practices, but really that's what this is about. What this work is, it really only becomes real as you bring it into action, into an embodied state. That can be said at every level that one can progress to in this work through the Paul Chafurka stages of awareness and all the various practices and distinctions that we offer at each stage of awareness as well. So this last practice I want to mention is the wider embraces practice. And this one that is, I believe this week, the fourth week, is the second of two wider embraces sessions that are offered in this course. And this one is slightly different than the one before. There are few, if any, of the basic instructions. So I'm sure you'll remember it. It's so simple. And it is led by a psychologist from New Zealand who has added a dimension that I think is especially valid right now. There is a particular embrace, a particular larger scale human bubble, if you will, that can be seen and can be actually felt energetically by even the newest wider embraces practitioner. And he adds this global embrace, and really it can be adjusted to as local and intimate as you wish in your experience. And you can take it out to whatever level is appropriate for that wider embrace to expand to include whatever way you are seeing any issue, any concern, any stressor that is you would consider larger than yourself. And so for me, I know that I have some of those larger than self stressors that I have chosen when I've done this wider embraces session that live just larger by a bit, larger than I consider my personal energetic field. And there are some that I consider larger than the particular larger embrace, the larger grouping that I'm thinking of. For instance, in this USA and our political and polarized, deeply troubled national embrace, this grouping that is the USA, that also can be seen as an embrace, and it can also be seen as having stressors that are far larger than even the grouping of all that sense of self together. So I hope you understand that. It will be expressed and explained just a little bit more if you were to take on doing that. Say once a week, or if you're really into it, feel free to do that daily if you have the space for it. I find it to be an immensely potent basic layer for learning how to influence a number of our body centers at the same time. So where Stacey Haynes is her centering work is primarily the physical body, I would say that the wider embraces practice affects us and expands our ability to directly experience the energy body in a way that I have literally never seen. And I've studied energetics for a long time. I've not seen a more gentle yet extremely potent way of introducing people to what it is to shift our energetic awareness volitionally. So if any of that sounds of interest, or if you're curious about it, I would recommend make a regular practice of it for a while. And I'd be very happy to speak with anyone who would come on to any of the remaining Saturday or Tuesday group practice sessions for clarification, for mutual exploration, Q&A. So consider yourself invited. So now for the remainder of this more abbreviated session this week, I want to recap what I consider to be the two central elements of week 3 last week and week 4 this week. And you've heard me talk about them before, so that much of this will be repetition, but I'm not repeating it to want to be annoying to you. That's the last thing I want to do. But if you're anything like me, and like the vast majority of people that I experience in this world, and especially that I've had the privilege of working with, we are deeply challenged as a culture, all the way down to individual by individual. We are deeply challenged to have real agency with regard to how we deploy our attention. How we deploy our attention. What do we attend to? What matters most to us? So if we have agency, and if we have clarity about how we operate, what matters most to us, what are the levels of the world around us where we spend most of our attention? Is it within our own body? Is it in our own intimate relationship? Is it in our family bubble or embrace? Is it in our community? Is it in our friendships? All the way out. So the two videos that I'm asking you to possibly revisit, you may have already watched both of them. And I would like to invite you to possibly slow down, you're welcome, still welcome to watch all the other videos, most of which are music and poetry and art videos. But if you have only, 2 videos worth of time in this coming week, I would recommend watching the Michael Meade video from last week. And I think you'll find that his focus in that video is a rare description from the mythopoetic lens that he always speaks from, is how to find center, how to deploy our attention through a mythopoetic lens about our life from a felt sense of center. And you'll hear his magical way of bringing in matters of the mythopoetic, the archetypal, and matters of the soul. So I'll come back to that in just a minute, but I just want to mention the other video that I request of you to take the time to watch. And if you've watched it before, to watch it again. I know there are a few folks who've been around this work for a number of years, and you've watched that darn video a lot. And so I understand if you don't want to, but here's a challenge for you. I obviously have found somebody that I think is an exemplar of an extraordinary level of ability to presence herself and be open-hearted and intimately related and vulnerable in quite a select and intentional way with people that she's sitting down in the same room. She has actually asked for the meeting, and that she'll have multiple meetings with these people. These are people who, by their own declaration, want to do harm to, if not kill, people like her, like Dia Khan, the filmmaker in this week 4 central video. The central point of this week's video content is this interview with filmmaker Dia Khan. So my challenge to you, if you are one of the folks who've been around this work for quite a while, you've seen the Dia Khan interview more than a few times, bless your heart, I challenge you to find more exemplars. Bring in some videos, and it might be a written thing, it might be a video, it might be an audio, it doesn't matter. What matters is it is a palpable, real-time experience of how this person presences themselves and has the level of awareness that they have, and are somehow able to be in relationship in a far less antagonistic way, and possibly taking it as far as Dia Khan as to end up being at least somewhat mutually compassionate or mutually respectful fellow human beings on the path of life. Now, to go from sitting across the table from people who want to kill you to sitting across the table from and being warmly invited to their camp and compound for a filmed interview and to be welcomed, that's a shift. That's an extraordinary shift. So your exemplars will, of course, be someone different. And what you see, what you experience when you listen to this, watch this, read this person. I'll be very curious to hear how you chose who you chose. What is it about their presence? What is it about how they deploy their attention? How do they presence themselves such that there is an invitation that is sincere enough and open enough that this person with whom they have this polarized or this non-existent relationship, this aggressive lack of relationship, and so on, this other person feels sincerely invited to join them in an authentic relatedness moment that, excuse my language, but you just can't bullshit that. You know it when you see it. And here's an opportunity to see it, share it with others, share it with us, and possibly, if you'd like to add some sort of articulation of how you saw what you saw, how you experienced this person as an exemplar. It is an extraordinary opportunity. And speaking mostly for the USA right now, I keep harping on it, we need this kind of training, this kind of mentoring, this kind of seeing, this kind of being able to articulate what are the attributes that a person is showing and bringing and presencing that makes them an extraordinary exemplar of this skill set that is so desperately needed at this time. There are those in the USA who are talking quite glibly about the possibility of there being some sort of civil war level expression in this country. I don't know. I don't see well enough at this moment. I certainly feel latent background and energetic aggression and energetic violence is present, very, very present in my scanning of the USA. But I don't know how it's going to turn out in terms of actual violence, actual civil war, whatever that would end up meaning. But what I do know is that whatever the outcome of this year's hot topics and big events like the elections and so on, these are skills that are desperately needed around the world, not just in the USA. We are terrible at relationship now, and of course I'm just generalizing like crazy. And if you've got great relationship abilities, I hope that you're out, training people and mentoring people and how to just be related at the most basic level. We have certainly collectively lost the plot with regard to how primary relationship is in the human experience, and how devastating it is to have it be corroded at the level that it is. Actually, a little bit of an invitation for anyone who feels pretty capable around relationship, and actually perhaps you are offering a type of teaching or mentoring or tutoring or counseling or whatever. I would invite you to please get in touch. And if you're comfortable doing so, I'd be thrilled to have you on an interview on the Poetry of Predicament YouTube channel that we have as our podcast. And I would be willing to either promote your work if you're doing work, or look at offering you a platform in which to offer your work if it turns out to be a good fit, because there is an immense shortage of what I'm talking about. This way of um, really mentoring and sharing deeply from the wisdom that is only found in those who have embodied successful relationship, only have this, their center is expanded large enough to be able to be powerful and open-hearted in their relatedness, whether it's with deeper self, with other people, with earth, with soul. So there's the invitation. Give me a call. Write me an email. Let's set up an interview or to hear about your way of doing that. For the rest of us, I want to say just a little bit more about the Michael Meade piece that I started us out with, a brief description of Michael Meade and his mythopoetic orientation in the world. There is something, again, really a no bullshit level that sometimes is difficult for people who are new to this mythopoetic, this archetypal framing for the human experience and how we can sense make by exploring through this lens of the mythopoetic, the Jungian, the archetypal, and so on. If you are a person who has some amount of experience and appreciation for this lens, this way of seeing the world, I'm hoping that you will allow yourself to fully view Michael Meade's video all the way. And again, if you have the patience for it, if you have the space for it, to do it twice. This is another very rich video, very rich resource. Like the Diakon video that I'm clear I could set up an entire course for the 6-week duration of this Collateral Beauty course. I could set up a course based entirely on that one video. We could explore relationship dynamics and distinctions. We could talk about deployment of attention. We could talk about qualities of presence and how to build out one's skill set of being able to discern and then deploy presence, deploy attention at an extraordinary level. So that's how highly I regard the Diakon material and the Michael Meade material, even though they are so different. You'll notice that he talks, as he often does, about his extensive work with at-risk youth, with troubled teenagers around the world in various circles that he'll create and community that he'll bring in other adults that are all on the same page and really invite these young people to deep dive with the adults to have a direct felt sense of how these archetypes show up and how they influence to a great degree our presence, our reactivity, our ability to relate, our ability to sense make in this world. And I hope you will agree that those are all elements that are desperately needed to be trained to not only the young people growing up in these troubled times, but really for the vast majority of adults alive on the planet today. It has long been my experience that we are a global culture that has lost the initiation into adulthood, and we're even further lost from the distinction of being truly an elder in our community, someone carrying wisdom, somebody who can mentor, somebody who can presence themselves with that wisdom in their community and their families and so on. There's also a distinction quite a bit further than that, and that is to become a sacred elder, one who has taken that presence, that wisdom, embodied wisdom and presence, and really refined that curation of wisdom and that curation of presence, and really brought it to a whole different level through ritual, through the mythopoetic, as Michael Meade has made abundantly clear for years in his way of presenting this work and facilitating this work. So that's what I wanted to mention about both. Let's say one more time about the Diakon video and the Michael Meade video, and how these are core elements of practices and of distinctions that where they usually reside for people who are taking part in this work. If you're at, kind of after the initiation, or excuse me, the introductory course, like this Collateral Beauty course, this is the kind of work, inner work of collapse that people take on. And so this would be at the mid-range of that Paul Chafurka stages of awareness. We're a couple steps above business as usual, and we've got still a couple of more extraordinary steps to go, and we'll talk more about those. We'll introduce them a bit in the next in the final couple of sessions here. This is where the real work happens. This middle zone where a person is able to self-regulate, is able to co-regulate. They don't have a hurricane blowing away their city. They've got a little bit of space in their life to be able to integrate perhaps a meditation practice, and perhaps over time, a little bit of building their skills to sit in circle in a good way with other people. Perhaps even a little bit further down the line, be able to start facilitating circles. That you can get the idea. There are many, many different tracks that people can choose from. But the idea is to expand your capacity to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors. And that is best done by curating and engaging with your own self-selected practices. And there's no better way to really get a sense of what are going to be your practices. What do you want to build the skills to do? First is to do the super basic work of what matters most to you. Who are your loved ones, and how do you want to be experienced by others? What do you want the qualities of your presence to be? So if you've got exemplars who can make more real for you, like what is it to be a person who has actually got the ability to embody and then presence an archetypal framing for what we're going through, a mythopoetic framing of what we're going through, a context that gives us the ability to ascertain or discern or distinguish what is a meaning of these troubled times. How can I start to find that meaning and that sense making within myself and sit in circle with others who are doing the same? I know of no more powerful way that people can be together right now in the face of this insanity of this world than to develop and build out that felt sense of center individually and collectively, to be able to find the aspects of being a human being that you need and want to build out for yourself and curate your own practices to do so. And if you're really lucky, if you're really smart, you'll get yourself a regular circle of people that where you all bring, you're each going to have different things that matter most to you. You're going to each come in with your own practices that you've chosen to be able to engage with for the next weeks, months, years. And again, there is nothing more powerful than to be able to sit in circle with others and to be able to say, you know, I'm having a tough time with my intimate relationship, and I need to ask you all to hold some space for me while I express some to you. And I have a feeling I've got some shadow stuff going on. And by definition, I can't see my own shadow. So I'm bringing my rawness to you. And I know I'm not looking good here. In other words, I don't want to, you know, it's embarrassing to be here telling you that I'm having some relationship problems, but I know enough after, you know, months or years in your support group to be able to say, I need some help. I need some outside seeing to help me see what shadow might be involved, and some wisdom of how I might be able to expand my awareness, you know, decrease the size of my blind spots, and increase my awareness, and possibly even cultivate a new level of presence. This has all been just a couple of minutes of an example of a person who's decided, yeah, something I want to do in this middle section of this path is I want to learn how to really be in circle with other people. I want to be able to hold space for others, and I want to be able to be vulnerable enough to have others hold space for me. And again, I know of no more powerful way for people to be together than this, some variation on what I'm talking about. And every person will have their own select practices, their own concerns, their own what matters most to them. They'll have their own different people whom they love, and everyone brings those differences and brings their similarities to the circle. So that's a lot. I didn't know I would be leaning so heavily in that direction of the circle. It is actually usually a bit more for the next two sessions, but I hope for you that you have had a lifetime of that kind of warm, supportive, powerful circle of sobriety, of intent, and of caring. And if it's new to you, I wish you all the best. And I'd be more than happy to connect with you offline. And if there's a way to start you on a path of putting together a circle, there are some elements that I can offer you to kind of get the seedlings growing to make the process of putting together your circle at the beginning a bit easier. Yeah, I just wish us all well. I think these are times when we really need to just take the gloves off and just get into the path or the track that calls to you at this time, and to start to build the skill sets that are needed for reconnection with in my own personal center, the center that I share with my community, my family, my, you know, those who with whom I am most connected. This is a time to really rally and build those skill sets. So thank you for listening to this round, and my apologies to not having done a specific practice this time, but I hope you are clear how laden this whole session has been with recommendations for practice, both physical practice and writing and conversation practice. So again, my thanks to you for participating in this Collateral Beauty course. And I very much look forward to meeting you soon, being with you in circles soon, whether that's in our Safe Circle calls every Tuesday evening, which you can sign up for on the Living Resilience website or in the online community space and so on. And perhaps you'll, after you finish up with this Collateral Beauty course, you'll start to see you'll start to get an interest in like stepping into a group that's already established. You may want to consider joining us for our community of practice sessions, which are 9:30 to 11 a.m. Pacific time every Wednesday at this time. And I'm also considering opening up another time and day of the week for another community of practice group. So I hope you'll be in touch if you have any questions about that or any suggestions about that. And I'll see you on Tuesday at the next the next group practice session. And then a week from today for the next Saturday. Ready? Take good care. Bye.
Welcome to another recorded live event supporting our most recent Living Resilience Introductory Course, Collateral Beauty. This course, designed to challenge and resource both newcomers and the very experienced in the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant communities. Each recording in this series is from either the Saturday or Tuesday online Zoom gatherings intended to deepen an embodied and shared experience of this inner work of collapse in the course called Collateral Beauty.